Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. I understand that a lot of you are joining from the UAE today, so welcome to you all. Good afternoon. Do say hello in the chat function. Tell us where you're joining us from today. We'd love to hear from you. I'm based in the UK and I am the event team leader for Renaissance and Geo Education. So I'll be behind the scenes making sure everything runs smoothly today. I'm just going to share a few housekeeping slides. Initially, I'm just going to share our mission with you, which is on the screen. And just a couple of housekeeping rules. You will notice that you are muted on arrival. Don't worry, we cannot hear you, but do say hello in chat. We'd love you to interact with us today. Just for those that need to nip out a bit earlier or want to share with colleagues, we will be recording this webinar, so you can find that or that it will email to you in the coming days, so look out for that. If you are having some technical issues, sounds a bit low, there are some audio settings. You can use that from the bottom of your screen and you can test your speakers and your mics from there. But mics are not necessarily needed today, just need to be able to hear today's session. Excuse me. We will be using a couple of functions today. We will be using the Q&A. I would encourage anyone that has any questions to add them to the Q&A bots. That way we can track all the questions that are coming through. You can also vote for questions, so they will raise to the top. So do use that for any questions regarding today's topic and any that you might have for Emmeline or James. So do pop that in the Q&A. You can also use a chat function, as some of you have already done. You do need to make sure that you make sure your messages go to everyone. So there is a little box where you can change the sending message to everyone. If you just want to reach out to the host panelist, you can also do that, but I would recommend changing that setting to everyone. Use the chat function for anything else other than questions. Please make sure questions do go in the Q&A box. We are expecting quite a high number of people today, so we will do our best to answer every question that comes through. But if we don't, we will reach out separately via email with all the questions that were raised in today's session. I just wanted to bring your attention to some upcoming events we have got in the UAE, so I've just popped them here. Do scan the QR code. This slide can also be sent afterwards, but do scan that QR code for a look at our events, our upcoming events. We've got quite a few in the UAE, so do take a look at those on that QR code there. You can also go to the GL Education website, which I've just added to the screen. And if you do have any other questions that you've forgotten to ask in this session, you can email international@renaissance.com. Okay, we've got about a minute spare, so I am going to stop sharing my screen. Do reach out if you do have any queries or questions in the meantime. I will be in the background, and we're going to start in just a minute's time. I can see we've got lots of people joining us in chat. Do tell us where you're coming from or join us from today, and make sure your chat function is changed to everyone. So there's a little section that says to, and you can change that to hosts and panelists. Okay, without further ado, we are hitting the past mark. I'm going to hand you over to our lovely speakers for today, Emmeline and James.
Thank you so much. And good afternoon, and thank you everyone for joining us for today's webinar. It's great to see so many dedicated educators who are taking the time to be here with us. My name's Emmeline, and I'm an education advisor with GL Education and Renaissance. In my role, I support schools here, both in the UAE and around the world, in making the most of their assessment data. But before this, I was also a primary teacher, so I understand firsthand the challenges that schools face when they're turning their data into meaningful action. I'm delighted to be joined here today by James Efforts, who's the head of elementary at Dubai Schools Al Kawanij. I've actually had the privilege of visiting James's school recently, and I've been working with him and his team on their ongoing data journey. And today he'll be sharing how they use the assessment insights to drive real impact in the classroom, ensuring every student has the best possible opportunity to succeed. So I'm going to hand over now to James.
Emmeline, thank you so much. And yeah, it's a privilege for me to be on the call. So I hope I do the first webinar justice. I shall certainly try my best. very much looking forward to interacting with you, albeit virtually. And we'll try and get through as many of these questions and queries that might get dropped into the chat as we muscle through. But yes, what a privilege it is to be an educator, particularly in the UAE, and I'm based in Dubai. I'm the elementary principal of Dubai School Al Kawanij. We opened our doors to our students around this time last year, and it's been a real roller coaster of a ride. So it's going to be a great pleasure for me to share with you all. Got my principal is looking at me through the window, teasing me, little rascal. I'll talk through the context of our demographic and our in our context, and then I'm really sorry, I've been super distracted. See you later, guys. Take care. Talk to you about some of the highlights around our data journey, and then yes, hopefully along the way enable some dialogue, some two-way dialogue. So we are a US curriculum school that's operated by Talim, but rooted within our curriculum is that Arabic culture and those Islamic values. We today welcome 1,761 students. We're K to grade 8, KG1 to grade 8, and we're growing organically year on year. Last year, we just went up to grade 7. This year, we opened grade 8. We welcomed 464 new students. The majority of those were down in KG1, where we have 12 sections. And then we opened a small amount of sections mainly for siblings across the rest of the campus. So fast forward 4 years, and we're tremendously excited about our high school graduates with their diplomas, and really exciting times ahead. We're 94% Emirati in our context, which is really quite unique. And yeah, it will allow me to talk as well about some projects that we've been working on, particularly with KHDA, called Excel Anywhere. But within our expat community, that's 6%, we boast 36 different nationalities, which again really does bring that international feel to our campus too. The challenges we've faced is that wide range of student starting points. We introduced a really robust assessment procedure for our new students upon entry. Our Cat 4 mean average, which we'll talk a little bit more about throughout the presentation, is 86, which, as you'll be aware, is significantly lower than that 100 standardized mean score that we're looking for. That does tell us actually that our students, although that cognitive ability is lower than the mean average, our students really do have established coping mechanisms and strategies to support them with their learning. So again, we'll unpick it as we go through. That bilingual, multilingual learner is how we plan for all of our lessons, with those at the heart of all of our planning. Our teacher variability. I describe our campus as a real melting pot. We have 37 nationalities of student. We have around 20 nationalities of staff. So with that comes a real mix of personality and expertise, which we tap into in order for us all to grow together. And obviously, yeah, the rapid growth of the school. 464 new students this year, and we'll look at increasing the numbers by a similar number next year. So thanks, Emily. You wait until I see my principal. I'm going to totally distracting me at the start. Just setting the context. So we are governed, operated by Talim. We work very closely with the Knowledge Fund, who is the overarching company that we work with alongside Tech, that support our funding and that actually put the money forward from His Highness's project and built our campus, our stunning campus. Last academic year, we were part of a pilot initiative from the KHDA called Excel Anywhere. Some of you may or may not have heard about it. Some of you on the call may also have been part of the pilot. And it was a real privilege. And it's in my 10 years in Dubai, it's something that I've not heard of before. We were partnered up with around 5 incredibly experienced inspectors from the KHDA, 2 US curriculum specialists, as well as MOE specialists and pedagogical specialists too. And the project, initially, I guess you could be one of 2 camps. As a leadership team, you could either get frustrated by the process and the prospects, or actually welcome it with open arms and have a growth mindset. And I'm pleased to say that we chose the latter. The impact of Excel Anywhere was quite simply transformational. It enabled us to work more closely with Emmeline. You came on board, didn't you, and delivered some amazing PD that we'll unpick further into the presentation as well. But being able to sit around the table with the inspectors and actually have conversations with them, conversations that they would always want to have with us during inspection, but they're not allowed to. It was a completely different platform. And we really, really sincerely benefited from the whole process. So, and perhaps we'll have some more questions on that throughout the presentation. Thanks, Emmeline. Thank you so much. So, you know, I started here at Dubai Schools about 18 months ago, and I've always been a bit of a data nerd, I affectionately refer to myself as, and we're embarrassingly lucky to have so much data at our disposal. I would describe us as being data rich, but application poor this time last year. Staff confidence was really variable. We spent a lot of time ticking the box, doing the assessments. We do map assessments. We had our internal assessments, the CAT 4, the NGRT, pass survey. For our MOE department, we chose to use the ABT assessments. So much time for our students dedicated to completing these assessments. But then it's the so what question, you know, what do you do with that information? And at the beginning of last academic year, the teachers not having the skill set to know what to do with the numbers, but equally not having those numbers shared with them as well, was a failure. So that's something that we really focused on last academic year. So building that capacity and the competence with our teachers, leveraging those assessments, making sure it's purposeful and meaningful, and not just a tick box exercise, was something that I'm really proud of, and certainly had the desired impact on our outcomes at the end of last academic year. Really trying to make that visible anytime, anywhere for all of our staff. So shifting that culture from being one of compliance for external measures, but one of actually ownership of that data and using it as a tool for learning. Thanks, Emily. So what that meant, I love the phrase rapid response model. We've currently sitting our full map assessments. We've also completed NGRT and the CAT 4 assessment for grades 3, 5 and 7. So at the end of this next 2 weeks, once we've completed map, we'll have a wealth of data that's fresh and ready to be shared with our team. We designed an internal dashboard, which is like a one-stop shop that our teachers can have an app on their phone or just on their desktop, which gives them access to all of these analytics and data. The students have a learner passport, which is good practice for many schools. So again, at the beginning of this academic year, all of our teachers had a pack handed to them with all of the information, the historical, the legacy data we had for each little human that they have within their classroom. And so we had dedicated time during inset and induction to focus on this. Again, an advantage we had this year on last year. The impact of having this tool is that it significantly reduced the admin. As data lead in a previous context, so much time and effort goes into the logistics behind doing the assessments, as opposed to actually getting the data and diving into it and making that really valuable learning for the teachers. So really empowering that process. And the pupil progress approach that we embedded last year as well was something that we're really looking forward to taking further forward this academic year. Thanks, Emmeline. Some quick screenshots. It's a very simple tool created by Mr. Imad, our central office data guru. It's, as I said, a one-stop shop that has everything there. Every child has a data passport that's 3 or 4 pages long, and we even are able to pull those from the CAT 4, you know, the biases, the parent reports that give you that advice to how to support the children to learn best, but also from our map assessments that we deliver, give ideas for small step interventions that parents can get involved with at home, which are also shared through this passport. Thanks, Emily. The pupil progress approach that we had at Cowanish had an overhaul. Again, when I go back to the world that we were in, where really we were giving our teachers far too limited information, we were very brave with the approach last year. One example is we added all of our staff to the TestWise website, which again, over the years of my exposure to it, was a brave leap for me as a leader. You know, I live in fear that the teachers are going to go on, they're going to do something with the database, they're going to, you know, adapt the numbers and the figures, but guess what? They didn't. And again, I'm looking forward to handing over to Emmeline shortly, where she'll be able to take you into that TestWise portal that really has had an overhaul over recent months and year. And the way that our teachers now have been trained to use that, again, has an amazing impact on what goes on in terms of quality first teaching on the shop floor. So as I said, the pupil progress meetings, we always follow each data drop. So every half term, when we do our formal data drop, a pupil progress meeting will follow. These are led by our grade level leads and instructional coaches sitting around the table with all of the teachers within a section. So it could be 5, 6, 7 teachers sitting around the table. And it's really open professional dialogue. We have all the data about that class that the teacher owns, and they present that to the team. And then we've coached our middle leaders in leading with really insightful questions, try and dig a bit deeper and try to understand what we can do, what small interventions and strategies we can put in place. Wave 1, quality first teaching, day in, day out teaching. Maybe we need some wave 2 or the wave 3 interventions where the children will be pulled out and we lean on our wider inclusion team, for example. But all of these strategies are discussed around the table. The impact of that is that we're sharing practice and we're sharing ideas that work with the teams. Again, something that was really impactful for us last year. All children are also on this pupil progress document. We have their external and their internal data aligned in one place. So it's a really interesting conversation to look at those students as to where they sit and how you can try and begin triangulating these different parts of data, which again leads into the conversations as to what's working well and what's not. That data-informed provision mapping, again, is the end product of that pupil progress meeting. And then we run a 6-week sprint until the end of that next half term, at which point, with measurable outcomes, it's another, your formative, your summative internal assessments, as well as potentially an external measure that we deliver. With MAP, we do term 1, term 2, term 3, we do fall, winter, and then spring. So it does give us those insights and makes it really clearly measurable. Thanks, Emmeline. The CPD program that we mapped out, and this is where Emmeline came in. It was around winter time, I think. It was just into the new year, I believe. And this was transformational for us on campus. With Emmeline's expertise, she was able to show all staff how to use the TestWise tool to dive in, to understand the pathway of students. And for me, having worked in the UAE for 10 years and having delivered NGRT at schools, certainly for the last 5 to 6 years, for compliance purposes under the KHDA, I left that PD session with a much deeper understanding of the why we are doing NGRT, we are using NGRT, and how we can use NGRT data to really inform the provision that's going on within the classrooms. And I found it an amazing experience, and that's why we invited you back, Emmeline. You're gonna get a lot of emails, I'm sure, off the back of this call. But you delivered during our induction a 2-hour session with all of our staff. So we've all got that shared understanding of how to utilize this tool to really deepen the outcomes. And really pleased on the next slide, just as a snapshot of our NGRT data. Here we are. The growth that we experience from Form A to Form B to Form C, and I'm being vulnerable on the call here as well. This was our data from grades 1 to grade 7 last academic year and our overall summaries. I know we have a colleague in common, Mr. Russell Smart, who does some incredible work working across multiple schools in Dubai and the UAE. We're sharing anonymously data. But yeah, the NGRT outcomes for us, you'll see the growth there from Form A to Form B to Form C. And really where we had the greatest impact was from kind of January to end of year. So it was from, the end of Form B through to C. And I'm really pleased to say that the initial findings from Form A that we've just nearly completed now shows that we've really sustained that consistency from the end of last academic year. And our students are in a much stronger place. So our mission at Dubai Schools is to be a beacon of academic excellence, particularly for our Emirati students. And we do have an attainment gap. And that's the beauty of this whole process. Again, it's a work in progress and it's not perfect at this point, but we've come such a long way. And when you look at the numbers, we left at the end of last year incredibly proud. The Excel Anywhere team, we're really pleased with our outcomes, and we certainly pleased to say that we met all of our KPIs. And actually, now we're back in for the second year of Excel Anywhere. So we welcome colleagues back from KHJ yesterday. So we were on a call looking into what our main focuses for school improvement this year. And ultimately, that is to consolidate the hard work and the successes of last year, and to build on the foundations that we put into place, and to really, hit the ground running. And I feel like with your support, Emmeline, and the team at Renaissance, we've certainly been enabled to do that. So, okay. So that's me. I'm going to stop talking now. Key takeaways. Yeah, just for me, it's about, data-rich schools are culture-driven. It's not system-driven. I think that was the place where we were. And it's much more of a ecosystem now of understanding the data and the tools that we've got, and really capitalizing on that. The CPD is the accelerator. Having high quality CPD in when you need it, the right people in the right place doing the right things, is definitely what's helped us close that attainment gap. And it's, for me, those small timely shifts, the small interventions, quality first teaching strategies, is something where I think a lot of our team grew, not only with their own pedagogy and their own practice last year, but with the confidence of working within the team and within our context, with so many bilingual, multilingual learners. Okay. I think that's me.
There we go.
Yeah.
And thank you, James. That was really interesting to listen to. And, as I've had the privilege of coming into your school and being able to work with your teachers. And I think the key of what you're saying is that giving that power to the teachers to have that ownership of their data and make sure they have that deep understanding of what the numbers are showing them, so that they can then take those insights and put them into practice in their classroom. So now James has so kindly gone through everything that they've done in school. I'm just going to go through a little bit about the NGRT and some of the specific data points that I worked with at Dubai Schools, Al Kawanij, and a few other schools that I've been to visit here in Dubai. So the NGRT is our curriculum neutral adaptive reading test, but the NGRT is more than just a reading test. It's actually a powerful diagnostic tool that offers really detailed insights into students' reading abilities, including decoding, comprehension, and vocabulary. Understanding your students' literacy skills is a really powerful precursor to understanding their overall learning potential, not just in English, but across the curriculum as a whole. If a student is struggling to read or to make sense of what they're reading, it can really affect their performance in every subject, from maths to science to geography, and of course, English as well. So the NGRT is split into two sections: the sentence completion, which all students will start with, and then the passage comprehension, or phonics. So these two sections of the NGRT align closely with Scarborough's reading rope, which illustrates that skilled reading is made up of multiple interconnected strands. And these strands fall into two broad domains: word recognition and language comprehension. So for students to become fluent, confident readers, which is our goal as educators, these skills must develop and become automatic over time. So by interpreting the NGRT data through this lens, we can identify where a student's reading may be breaking down, whether this is a decoding issue, a comprehension gap, maybe it's more to do with vocabulary, or all of these issues together. And then this allows us to select more targeted, effective interventions that really address the root of their difficulties. So if we just have a look at some of the data that you will see. So this is an example from a student's individual report that you will find on TestWise. We can see here the student's SAS score, which is a SAS score of 90. So as you may be aware, 90 puts them just within that average range. But as educators, we want to make sure we are consolidating, and these students are making progress to be moving up into more comfortably within that average range. If we look down here to where it gives us our STAY9 breakdown, so we can see that we've got an SC, which is the sentence completion, and a PC score, which is the passage comprehension. So you can see for sentence completion, this student is actually working at a STAY9 6, which is significantly higher than their overall SAS of 90 and their overall STAY9 4. You can see they're actually at that higher end of the sort of average level for their age. But when we look at the passage comprehension, that score tells us a very different story. Their passage comprehension score is a 3, which is actually below the expected level for their age. So what we can see there from looking at their overall score, even though they might be just within that average range, by looking at this breakdown between those two skills of decoding and comprehension, we can see that there's a gap here. We can see that there's a discrepancy of 3. So this means that this student has comprehension issues. So while they may be reading at a level that is appropriate for their age, they're not actually understanding and going into the nuances of the text the way that we would want them to for this student. So because this student has got that gap of 3, they've got that comprehension issue, I then want to look a little bit closer at the types of questions that this student is struggling with. So we can also then dig a little bit deeper into our data analysis and have a look at an analysis of the passage comprehension questions by question type. So again, this is contained in the individual report. So it's allowing us to dig even deeper into this student's strengths and areas of development so we know how to support them. So looking here, we can see that we've got all of the different types of questions that these students are being asked during the passage comprehension portion of the test. We can see how many questions they're answered and actually how many they are able to answer correctly. So I can see that this student within the retrieval question type is actually answering 75% of them correctly. So they are getting the who, the what, the when, surface level questions here. But if we look across, we can see inference and deduction, they're only getting 29% of them correct. Writer's use of language, they've actually got 0%. So we can start to see that it's when things are underneath the surface, when the answer is not directly in that text for the student to take out, when they actually have to think a little bit deeper, this is where they're starting to struggle. So now I know for this student or students with this similar score, that this is how I'm going to focus now on with them, and this is how they are going to make that progress. We don't want that gap between the sentence completion and the passage comprehension to get even bigger as this student is going up through the school. We want to close that gap by focusing really carefully on those comprehension questions that they are struggling with. So as James has mentioned, using the TestWise platform, this is one of the newer elements to the group report within the NGRT reporting. So the interactive group report offers this additional level of analysis through the reading support pathway. And this tool is designed to help schools interpret their NGRT results and take meaningful action for their literacy provision. It supports the identification of students who might need additional help, and it offers clear starting points for planning those targeted interventions or learning support based on a student's specific reading profile, whether you are working with individual learners or you're developing broader strategies for groups of students or year groups. So the reading support pathway is informed by the simple view of reading, which is a framework that highlights the 2 essential components of reading that I've already mentioned, the word recognition and the comprehension. The sentence completion and passage comprehension STAY9 scores provide insight into where a student will sit along this decoding comprehension axis. And this in turn helps determine the type of support or intervention that may be most effective for these students, whether a focus on phonics, decoding, vocabulary development, comprehension strategies, or any combination of these. And groups of students with similar needs will all be grouped together in one profile. So you can see I've put a QR code here on the screen for you to explore a little bit more and have a look into these different types of reading profile types. In addition to analysing the NGRT data alone, we can also analyse it in combination with the CAT4 data, which gives us a really powerful insight into students' learning needs. By comparing their reading ability with their cognitive potential that was indicated by the verbal battery within the CAT4, teachers can identify those students who are reading below their cognitive profile and may therefore be underperforming relative to their ability. So this helps us move beyond that surface level attainment and open up discussions to potentially uncover hidden barriers to their progress. And you can see on the screen here, this is an example of the Excel report, which again can be found on TestWise. I have formatted it slightly just to make it a bit more user-friendly for teachers to be able to access. But you can see this reading discrepancy profile column is really powerful in identifying students who are actually underperforming within their NGRT score compared to that CAT4 verbal SAS score. So with this understanding of the student's learner profile and also having that understanding of whether they have a verbal or spatial bias, which you can also see here, teachers can make targeted adjustments, whether this is through tailored reading support, differentiated instruction, or scaffolded learning opportunities, so that learning experiences then become more accessible, meaningful, and appropriately challenging for every student. So just to finish up then, after analysing the NGRT data and gaining that clear understanding of students' needs through their CAT4 data, you can then begin to set really intentional targeted goals that focus on the areas that these students need for development. Reading is a multifaceted skill, and general reading intervention really won't have that impact that we need. So this focused approach allows you to make a greater impact in less time by concentrating only on the specific skills each student or groups of students need to develop. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I think now is the time we can have a look at the Q&A, and then see if we've got any questions there that can be asked.
Yeah, Laura. I think Laura's a secondary or high school teacher, leader, asking around, how the data packs and staff support across secondary school could be rolled out, how to succeed basically with multiple subjects, as a teacher, when you're teaching multiple subjects with quite a large group of students. Obviously, I'm elementary principal, so and I've been leading this process at our campus with homeroom teachers who generally have their 24 lovely little humans in front of them. So and deliver English, math, science, and all of those lessons that are delivered in the English instruction lessons. That said, we do have middle school. We go up to grade 8, and how we mapped pupil progress was subject specific. So we're still fortunate enough to have, head of departments, instructional coaches who would lead these professional dialogues, and then the English team will come together to discuss English language learning. I think, Emily, linking to what you've just done there, that team dives into NGRT outcomes. They connect that with the combination report, with the cognitive ability of the students. We look into the science teams and the maths teams, and we look at the different domains from CAT, which gives us those insights. But we particularly drill down into our map data, which obviously is a separate system and tool to TestWise. But that gives us some indication of, the standards, those broad KPIs where the students have really succeeded with, and have a solid knowledge and understanding, and those where they're struggling more. So we're able to pull those insights from the tools to put in the hands of the teachers. Obviously, the greatest impact is that kind of one-to-one verbal feedback in the moment of a lesson. So just trying to give all of our teachers as much advantage that they can have before they step into the classroom, I think, is the end goal. But it does prove more challenging, Laura, certainly from my perspective, when you're a secondary subject expert and you have a much wider lens to look through. I don't know if you've got any insights into that, Emmeline.
And I would say as well, for secondary teachers, even if these teachers are not necessarily teaching English itself, there's a lot to be said for them having an understanding of the NGRT data and having that understanding of their students' reading needs. So, for example, within maths, when it comes to reading word problems or having to understand the language that is used in how something is explained, understanding whether a student is able to read these words or these questions, or understanding if a student is able to read these questions but not have the actual comprehension, can also really play a part in being able to know how you can support those students within the classroom as well. Similarly, within science, if there's sort of technical texts and things like that, understanding that there'll be students who struggle with their reading, even if they're in year 8, year 9, year 10, this is giving them that deeper understanding of their students as well. I see. Is there if we haven't got any other questions in the chat at the moment, so we've got a few minutes now if anyone would like to add any more questions into the question box, and then we can have a go answering them for you. And I can see someone in the chat is also agreeing with me about using the NGRT to identify student needing help with their vocab. This is something very useful all across subjects and all across age levels as well. If we give you a couple more minutes just to add any questions into the chat.
Will the recording be sent to our emails? I believe the answer to that is a resounding yes. As long as we can edit the first bit. When I was completely flummoxed by my principal, I'm going to go downstairs.
We'll see what we
again.
can do.
Naughty man. And I think,
I
the
think
PowerPoint presentation is going to be shared as well. Yeah, no worries.
we'll just give another minute to add any questions into the chat. Otherwise, we will hand back to Terry to finish up.
Brilliant. I can see another question has just come through. So slightly off topic, but now that GL is owned by Renaissance, could the NGRT generate an AR book level?
This is not the first time we've had that question. There's a lot of work that obviously goes into something like that. So it is in the sort of roadmap for the future, but it won't be happening immediately.
Thank you, Emmeline. And I think there's a couple of little comments in the chat. Just a reminder to add any sort of questions to the Q&A, just because the chat can be quite, we can miss certain questions. We've struggled with building our dashboards on our internal system. Any support with that?
We obviously can't support with data that's not owned by us or within our system, but if you need any support with actually extracting the data from our system and how to analyze that, and maybe having a discussion about the most useful way to present this and share this, we can help with that, yes. So you can contact the email address and then you'll be put in touch with the correct person to help you.
Brilliant. So I just wanted to quickly, while we're just waiting for any sort of further questions, I just want to reshare the slides again, mainly just to remind you that we have quite a few events taking place, and I'll just leave that QR code up there so you can access those. But if you do have any further questions, we will just stick around for a couple of minutes longer. You can pop that in the Q&A. But I just want to take this opportunity to thank our speakers today, Emma, Emmeline and James. Thank you very much for speaking today. Thank you for everyone that's joined us live, or if you weren't able to join us and you're watching this recording, thank you for watching that too. As mentioned, a presentation or a copy of the PowerPoint will be sent via email along with the recording. Just give us a day or two just to edit that. And any sort of questions in the meantime, do feel free to reach out to us if you have anything. If you do want to leave, you can just press the cross in the top right hand corner of the session, or you can press leave. But again, thank you very much for joining. And yeah, I think we can see that James has added his details into the chat, so you can reach out to him. Do jot that down. And I don't think we have any further questions. So if there's nothing else to add, Emmeline or James, I will close today's session down.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
joining
you.
today. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.